Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. We are happy today to welcome back Arun Krishnakumar. For those who have not been watching, he is Rabbit 633 on our site, NerdRabbit.com. Basically, today we're going to take a slightly different format than some of the conversations we've had in the past. In the past, we've been talking about some challenges that people have faced in the cloud that are pretty common, but this one is more tied to a particular use case that he identified in a project that he was working on recently. And we thought it'd be good because it applies to a few different use cases past that. So welcome back, Arun. We're glad to have you on.
Thanks, Chris. It's always nice to meet you. It's always nice to meet everyone. Thanks for having me in the podcast.
Excellent. So just let's kind of set a little background here. Can you tell our audience a little more about, the type of customer you were working with and the problem that you were facing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The use case was, let's say, like there was a medical SaaS provider. They're providing a remote patient monitoring and tracking solutions for their customers, for their patients. Again, the entire system, they have it in their like AWS, and it's a complicated environment with a lot of servers, with a lot of services. Again, we talk about monitoring. It's a real-time solution. So they faced a lot of challenges in maintaining the system consistency, how to do the security patches and applying the security patches of the frequency and what's the frequency for the patches and keep maintaining that. And they have like so many configurations, and they have like multiple environments. Again, maintain configurations and have consistency across the accounts was a difficult problem. Okay, so that is the biggest challenge for that provider.
Yeah, and you talked about kind of maintaining compliance across their environments. That's important for this customer being a medical provider, just because they have specific legal requirements they have to tend to. So being able to manage all of that, if it is this Herculean task you're describing, it's a real problem. So really the challenges they faced were, patch management, configuration management, the fact that it's extremely manual for the time being, how they maintain their compliance and auditing of that compliance, and really the automation or lack thereof that was leading to all of this, right?
It is. There are like a lot of challenges. Since they're on the healthcare space, they need to have compliance. As you suggested, Chris, it's a very, very important thing. They have to make sure it's HIPAA compliant, and also there are a lot of configurations that are not in sync. So there are multiple challenges for this customer, like patch management, one of the key thing, and then lack of automation, and then there is a lot of manual configuration management is happening. Like developers go and then they're doing everything manually, and the final bigger piece is the compliance and auditing. So they are like falling short of compliance, and they are like, and also on the auditing part, they're not like having set of auditing tool sets for them to properly report on what's really going on. So this is a kind of a overall, I would say, like high level challenges, but these high level challenges drill down to like other challenges as well. So it's not going to be done overnight. Again, the solution corresponding to for these challenges are the AWS Systems Manager.
Yeah. That's the thing about AWS. People move to this environment because of the complexity that they can create there. And AWS does provide tooling to manage that complexity, but you do have to take advantage of it, and it's not necessarily something people think about until that complexity finally shows its ugly head. And in this case, like you mentioned, this is a medical client. They have compliance obligations. This can apply to people with PCI obligations, people in the defense industry with compliance obligations. Whenever you are working in this space, you have to make sure that you are setting it up so that you can do the tasks necessary to meet those obligations. So it's really important to a lot of the people we talk to be able to maintain this in an efficient way, so that they can keep all their applications doing what they need to do in a way that's efficient for their business, but also then again meets all of those obligations. So kind of getting a little more into the service that's able to alleviate these headaches, let's talk a little bit about AWS Systems Manager. So walk everyone through it.
Absolutely. So in a nutshell, what is AWS Systems Manager? Again, AWS Systems Manager is an AWS service that we can do a lot of stuff within that. Okay. So it allows the customer to automate common and repetitive IT tasks, IT operations and management tasks across multiple accounts and across multiple regions. Okay. So the different features of the systems manager, or let's say like op center, like operational center, like you have a third party tool, ITSM tool that we can integrate it. And we have like instant manager, we have like app config, parameters to store secure secrets, automation, change manager, and compliance. So there are like multiple within that AWS System Manager service, there are multiple sub-services that Systems Manager provides for us to use within our application. Okay. In a nutshell, again, there is much more. There's a session manager, how you want to safely access the system without bastion host, like a just-in-time access, for example. So there are like very, very cool features that Systems Manager provides.
Yeah, it's one of those tools that AWS offers that can actually be a pretty broad-reaching tool for a lot of different systems engineering, systems management, administration types of tasks. So managing state, managing patches, parameter storing, automation and run commands. It's a pretty broad tool. Now, kind of going into past just the featuring it offers, because obviously, that really comes into play when you're trying to implement a tool like Systems Manager. But let's talk more about what it does in the end, the impact of it, because I think that's really important for something like this, because from a business standpoint, it's the system standpoint almost gets mundane. It's why we don't think about it until it's a problem, and then we're dealing with the fires, right? We're always talking about putting out fires, but it's usually because we didn't prevent them. Let's talk about how this prevents fires.
Absolutely. So I would like to, Chris, I would like to take like a 3 or 4 features that AWS Systems Manager provides, and then I can explain that, and then I can also explain what benefit it gives. For example, State Manager, right? State Manager, again, it ensures that the instances remain in a consistent state by applying 3 different configurations. Okay, for example, and any drift from the desired state are automatically corrected with the State Manager. So that is a very, very key thing if you have massive workload, okay, and different types of workload. And what it will provide, it is going to automate. The impact will be like it is going to be the environment will be automated and it will be consistent, which is the key. There is no drift between dev, QA, UAT, performance, prod, right? So it's very easy for the developers to go and check. Okay, that is one thing. Next, Patch Manager. So Patch Manager can be configured to automatically scan and install patches across all EC2 instances. So that is also a very, very key thing, because we have often seen like some update going to some system which takes down the entire system. I think recent CrowdStrike event with Microsoft, where the airports, right? The reason that gave is like some patch has been updated, okay, and then which the developer doesn't know. So I think Patch Manager is a very important feature where there are a lot of workloads and different type of workloads. Windows, Linux workloads are there. We can use this Patch Manager to configure automatically.
Well, and kind of going back to that, because it actually struck a memory for me, because I've been reading all about kind of the CrowdStrike outage and some of the things. You know how we saw different levels of companies regaining their functionality, right? Different speeds at which they regain functionality. And part of that had to do with the patching of the problem. And the patching and the way it had to be done at that time, it was a manual approach, apparently, for the nature of the systems that this ran on, which is why for some customers it was extremely quick because of how some of their systems were situated. For other customers, not the situation. And it ended up taking way longer and costing way more money.
Oh, yeah. So again, companies like enterprise companies often run into issues with patch management to make sure like multiple tenants or multiple accounts, all of their workloads are in consistent patch. So that's I would say like a team's job, day-to-day job. This patch manager will automate a lot of that. Okay. And again, it can be completely scripted out and it can be automated. It's going to take the headache of the administrators, to be honest. Okay.
No one likes
So,
putting out fires. They'd
oh,
rather
yeah,
there just not be a fire.
100%. Yes, yes. So the third one I'm going to talk about is the parameter store. I think like to securely and centrally manage configuration information. Okay, database connection strings, API keys, API secrets, right? We can use parameter store as a place to store, and then we can access that in our application as an environment variable. So that's a pretty standard practice and it's super secure. So those can be achieved through the system manager services.
Excellent. Now, so just kind of getting the impacts, we did kind of touch on those a little bit in that conversation,
Yes.
but one of the things is we kind of touched on that bit about patches, scalability. If you are going to have an ever-increasing complexity due to the ever-growing nature of your business needs, you need a way to deal with that complexity. That is scalability. It's your ability to deal with unforeseen complexity in the future. This takes out things that simply without automation can only scale with more manual effort, which,
Yes.
as we all know, is not the efficient approach to handling these things. So we have scalability. Obviously, we talked about compliance a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
getting back to that one, it's a really big deal to be able to benefit from things like automations and configurations, especially around security, for the nature of these compliances. This stuff changes all the time.
It is. Yeah. So compliance is a very like it's a very bigger thing and important thing, especially in medical industry. Again, like every industry has its own set of compliance. Okay. So it does take care of the compliance part of it and the auditing part of it. Again, AWS has separate services for compliance as well. Okay, but these services go hand in hand with that. We need to have some kind of information to see what is compliant or what is not compliant by logging, right? This service will provide that visibility so that if you want to use external tool sets for compliance, that's totally fine. But this is an inbuilt service that help us in in logging and auditing capabilities, and that goes with the industry standards. And there are also like automated reports and dashboards provided for the visibility. Okay, what's really happening? So that is one of the cool feature I would say. Like I know like this customer really liked it that feature because they are not they don't know what have really happening, and this provided insights on that.
Yeah, especially from a security standpoint, you want to know if there's attempts at trying to get into your system. You want to have good visibility on everything. You want to have the ability to stay on top of the most recent security patches and know that you've done your job to maintain those
Mm-hmm.
compliance standards. When you're doing it manually, piece by piece, you're upgrading each server with each patch. You're wondering hey, did all of them get done? Are we on
Yeah.
top of this, or did something get missed? Right? Because things
Yes, yes.
happen.
It,
That's
it,
the
it happened,
problem.
and yes. So yeah, and then complaints keeps on the complaint standards are keeps on updating, right? So it's very difficult to keep up with the updates as well. So that is one of the key features. AWS, they are updating their platform with the latest complaint standards.
Yeah, and then the kind of where that goes past is really about efficiency from there forward. I mean, if you think about it, it's not just that this helps you keep up with your compliance and make sure that you're safe and secure, but it's also the fact that when you have to do this stuff manually, that is as a time intensive thing. And the ability to automate these things that are really just repeating the same task over and over again, it's huge for a business, especially when you actually think about the scale that some of this reaches out to in some of these larger organizations.
100%, yes. Reduced downtime. When we have blue-green deployments, right? Automating using systems manager service with those, right? It's going to have like completely reduce the downtime. Okay, which is great.
Yeah. And that reduced downtime, obviously, it makes sure that your systems are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Downtime is an inevitable part of the software industry, but it's making sure that you're doing what you can to ensure uptime. And
Yes.
this really changes that game.
And
So I mean, it's a simple tool in the name, AWS Systems Manager, as you might imagine. It's basically your straightforward systems engineering powerhouse that exists inside the Amazon ecosphere. But kind of like you mentioned, it's also one of those things that needs to be leveraged alongside other tools, especially for compliance. This is a hub of operations.
It is certainly hub. I know like a lot of customers, what I've seen is like small customers or medium customers. Again, people don't use the systems manager because they don't know the real power of it. So I would highly recommend systems manager. You can choose the services that are applicable to your industry, to your need, and start using it. And again, this is also for disaster recovery. Again, this customer specific, the medical customer, we created disaster recovery environment and using the systems manager, which was like a time saver for us. It's
Yeah.
going it helped a lot in that.
And for the small organizations, the reason they might not have used a tool like this is because like we don't have a huge environment yet. We don't have
Yes.
so much
Yes.
complexity yet. But the key word there is yet. It's that if your if your business interests here go the way you're hoping, I'm guessing it's going to grow. And are you prepared for that? Are you truly prepared for that? And everyone wants to say yes, but most of us are aware that the answer is, in fact, maybe to no. So I think a tool like this, getting started early, having a consciousness of your system's environment, what is automated, what's not, and how you can act if things were to scale up quicker than you initially anticipated.
Yep. Yeah, I think perfectly said, Chris. Yeah, so I would recommend this to customers and at least start utilizing the kind of services or the features that is part of the system manager. We can utilize it. So that will be a one step forward.
Yeah, it's a big task. And as I said, the best place to start is early. But if you haven't started and you're already in a complex place, then the best time to start is yesterday.
Yes.
Get on it, start kind of taking charge of this because it is something that once you understand it, it actually makes your life easier, not more difficult.
Yep.
So if you want more information on it, reach out to Arun. He is Rabbit633 on the NerdRabbit platform. Again, Arun, as always, we're glad to have you on. Thanks for always taking the time to talk to us about some of these AWS topics. I know a lot of our viewers appreciate it just because it is a wildly complex space and
Hmm.
it is constantly changing. So your expertise is very much appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.